Shit, Tupac's greatest hits. Speaking of changes, I wanna change this game like I'm losing in Madden, 30-6. Like that, y'all. Some people they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them.
What is up, Lex City, and welcome back to Spokast. Today's guest is Josh Lorenzen, the co-owner of the new event space, the Chameleon. And for those who don't know, it is in the same location as the previous business and Spokast's favorite music venue, Lucky You Lounge. And when I heard that someone would be taking over the old Lucky You space, I had to find out who that was and get them onto Spokast. Over the last 5 years, the name Lucky You has been mentioned at least in 90% of our episodes. And when it was announced that Lucky You would close its doors at the end of August in 2023, I think we all were a little sad. Well, we can be sad no longer because Lucky You Lounge has been resurrected as a Chameleon, and everyone should be over the moon because it is in great hands with Josh Lorenzen and his partners at the Chameleon. In addition to helping open the new event space, Josh is also a chef. He got his start in the restaurant industry at the Spokane staple Mizuna, and after a stint of living in Portland, he returned to Spokane in 2018 and helped open the plant-based restaurant Root. In addition to all this, Josh is also a musician and has been for most of his life and currently produces music for the local hip-hop artist Jang the Goon. You can find out all about the events that are happening at the Chameleon by visiting their Instagram at Chameleon Spokane or by visiting their website, chameleonspokane.com. And I should mention, Josh and his team, along with Have You Heard Live, have put together an amazing lineup of shows for the first 2 weekends that feature many Spokane-based artists that include Nothing Shameful, Fat Lady, Jang the Goon, Kung Fu Vinyl, Leftover Soul, Wes Marvin, and Alcohol and Feelings. There is so much packed into this episode and a couple surprises. I cannot wait for you all to hear it. But before we get into the show, let's give a shout out to my sponsor and Patreon supporters. Main Market Food Co-op was founded in 2010 with just 700 member owners. And in the last 14 years, it has become a vibrant part of downtown Spokane with over 9,000 member owners today. Its focus is on equal respect for its consumers, producers, the environment, and Main Market is dedicated to offering the highest quality foods with the smallest footprint while supporting the strength of our local food economy. As a full-service grocery store, bakery, and deli, Main Market Food Co-op is your one-stop shop for all of your grocery needs. They have a produce section that features local in-season fruits and veggies, while their bulk department offers a wide selection of teas, spices, grains, dried fruits, snacks, you name it. And they have an impressive selection of refrigerated dairy and the largest selection of local eggs you'll find in Spokane. So whether you're looking for a delicious meal or a well-stocked grocery store, Main Market Food Co-op is the place for you. Visit them today across from my studio on the corner of Main and Brown in downtown Spokane. This podcast could also not be done without my amazing Patreon supporters, and they are Joe Williamson, Joe Van Voorhes, Elizabeth Geyer, Abby Pointer, Gina Campbell, Tyler Poole, Judy Pointer, Amber Sparks, Luke Baumgarten, Valerie Ozier, Nick Spanger, and Elizabeth and Bill Pointer. Thank you all again so much for being Spokastonites. If you want to become a Spokastonite and support what I'm doing here at Spokast, visit patreon.com/Spokast. Well, I will not keep you any longer. Here is Josh Lorenzen, co-owner of the Chameleon. This is Spokast. But I'm sitting here with Josh Lorenzen, the owner of Root Bar and Kitchen and the new owner of the Chameleon, formerly Lucky You Lounge. In the 5 years I've been doing Spokast, I would say 90% of the time, Lucky You comes up as the best music venue. And when it left Spokane, I was heartbroken. And to have it come back and be resurrected as the Chameleon, I'm very excited about it. So, and I don't want to get into all that right now, but I want to talk about Josh in Spokane. Are you born and raised here, or how did you get to Spokane?
I was not born and raised here. I was born in San Diego, California, and I moved up here, or my mom moved me up here when I was pretty young. So I did grow up here and was raised here. Went through all elementary school, high school, all that, and then left when I was 19 to go to Portland for what ended up to be 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And then came back about 6 years ago now, and opened up Root and kind of just jumped back into things.
You left Spokane at 19. I read that you left to go work in like become a chef or work in the food industry or restaurant industry, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, like how. So Inlander said that you worked at Mizuna. So you were working there very young then.
Yeah, I was 18. Yeah.
Oh wow! Like what were you doing at Mizuna when you started there?
Oh, I was doing just line cook stuff,
Okay.
pantry stuff. It was funny because at the time, Tony Brown was working there.
Wow.
Josh Grimes, who ended up being the chef at Lucky You when they opened, and Allison from Boots. I'm drawing a blank on her last name for some reason right now, but we all worked at Mizuna. And then fast forward 15 years later, and we all own our own restaurants, and it was a weird little hot pocket of people that ended up growing and doing their own thing. So it was a fun team to be a part of. Yeah,
that's so cool. And at the same time, were you into music as well? Like, were you DJing? Like,
yeah, 100%. So music has always been kind of my main passion. It's been something that has worked really well with food and whatnot, but food was something that I sought out. Kind of more just a means to be able to make music. It was kind of my day job of sorts, but over the years I fell in love with it, and it's always something that I've been into. I enjoy the community aspect of eating and whatnot, but I didn't necessarily set out to be a chef. Music was always my thing, and a lot of people refer to me as a DJ right now because of what I do with Jang the Goon. But in reality, I'm a producer, and I've played multi-instrumentalist and played in different bands in Portland, and have kind of had a full adult life of a music career. And I think most people, when I came back to Spokane, kind of associated me with Root and cooking and stuff, which is great, and it's a huge focus on what I'm into. But music is my true passion, if you will.
That's so cool. What was like? What were you getting into like as a young Josh? What was like your influences?
Sure. So before I even moved to Portland, I was playing the bass, and I was doing a couple different local groups here, even in high school, going up, and it was just like a mixture of different rock groups. Kind of did like some classic rock stuff for a while, and then did the whole emo screamo phase.
Right.
And then right before I left, I actually recorded a record here in Spokane with a good friend of mine with a band called Lord Kelvin, and it was a two-piece bass and drums. I was doing bass and lead vocals, and it was a sludge metal, kind of like weird, dark, kind of like heavy, distorted bass kind of thing. And then I went to Portland and immediately joined a completely different group. Did a lot of contemporary kind of like, I don't know, maybe more folky indie kind of stuff. And then we switched really abruptly to a full electronic group, and I picked up electronic production, and I honestly never looked back. Electronic production is my jam for sure.
That's so cool. Like, so you were just like, you were doing a little bit of everything, like such an eclectic mix of music. And did you just play growing up? Like, when you were in school and the band and stuff like that? Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I started out, the first instrument I played in elementary school was actually the clarinet, which is an odd one for me, considering I never came back to it, but I'm a fan. And then I did bass, guitar, and did some drums and some vocals. Kind of taught myself how to play the keyboards a little bit, like mostly like bass lines and synth stuff when I was doing the electronic stuff in Portland. And now I'm just mostly production. So making beats, mixing, mastering, just kind of executive producing people's records to kind of get the big picture and have it all come together. And I think that's probably my truest version of what I think that I'm the best at. Out of all of the instruments and genres and stuff, I think that this is more for my brain. Is kind of being a part of the whole picture instead of being one element of it.
That's so cool. Like, so when you were down in Portland, like you were just working at a restaurant and doing music at the same time. Like, what is that schedule like? Because I feel like when I think of the restaurant and being in the music scene, like that's a lot of late nights. Like it's
insanity. Yeah.
Like you're never going to bed past like 3, right?
You know, it jumped all over the place. When I first moved, I actually got really lucky. I got brought on by a very popular chef and restaurateur named David Machado at the time. He brought me on at his restaurant in Southeast Portland called Laurel Kitchen. And I was a young buck, and I was happy to learn, and I was excited to be in a big city. And he took a liking to me, but one big thing that we had was issue with the fact that I also had this other love, if you will, which was music. And it drove him crazy because I was a great employee and I was good at what I did, but I also was like, I need to take this night off. I have a show or whatever the case. So it was really just a trick of finding the right people that I worked for that understood me and were willing to work with that, and just, yeah, not sleeping a lot, grinding it out, being young, just, working 40 hours a week at a day job and then playing shows 2 or 3 nights a week. And every once in a while going on tours and traveling around the country and stuff. It was definitely chaotic for a while.
Yeah. And so getting into like the producing side of things, when did you start producing music for artists? Like you were in your own band, you're doing that part, but like, and I'm sure you're producing music then for yourself, but like, when did you just like decide I'm not going to be in bands anymore?
Well, it kind of actually didn't work out that way. It was,
Okay.
I was in a band called the AM, which is still a group in Portland. They've been around for a long time. Some legendary singers, Jenny and Amanda Price, and they've kind of had a rotation of different musicians around them. But at the time, they had built a new troupe, and it consisted of me and this other gentleman named Aaron Altimos, who's a very talented producer, keyboard, singer, songwriter. He's just amazing all around. And we were recording our own stuff, and Aaron was kind of the leader of that for a while, and I was playing the bass, and I was just paying attention to him enough that I was like, wait a minute, I actually really am interested in what you're doing on this part of it. Can you teach me? And I just kind of paid attention, and over time he would pass on notes and stuff. And there was this one point where I finally got a laptop, and I finally got a DAW and started doing production, and I immediately fell in love with it. And so we just switched from being more live instruments, organic kind of instrument stuff, to just, wait a minute, we want to be electronic pop group, which was really hot then. It was in the mid 2000, like 2010 or something like that. And I just fell in love with it. So I got tiny little keyboards, started playing sub bass lines instead of playing the bass. We started bringing in drum tracks. We started doing all these synths and stuff, and I just never looked back. So I kept being in that band for many years, and still am in many ways. I still write with them. I don't play with them very much anymore, but so the production has always kind of informed who I am with the bands, but the bands are more of a relationship kind of based thing, and people that I enjoy being around and get along with we're like, well, I'll be in a band with you, but I also will produce for you as well.
Yeah.
And there's some things where I just produce and I'm not in a band with people, and
Yeah.
it's a little less close and intimate, if you will.
It's such a good, I imagine a great talent to have, like as being in a band or help. Like I've kind of dabbled into like helping people make music locally, and I don't produce music at all. Like I just like want to help people get to the right people to produce. And the one thing that people always, kind of fall into is like they don't have anyone to help them produce their music, and so they're kind of in Spokane. They don't really. There's not many options, but I think there are a lot of options. You just got to find them, right?
Yeah, and then get along with them. Yeah,
and get along. Right? I guess that is definitely a part of it, isn't it? So what? So you're in Portland. You're doing music. You're working. Like, what brought you back to Spokane? Was it Root? Like,
in a nutshell, it was. My wife and I, or my wife now, which she was my girlfriend at the time, we're living in Portland in a tiny studio apartment in the middle of town, and things were just getting a little tougher. Rent was going up, things were getting a little hectic, and we were just finding ourselves feeling like a little stagnant. And my partner and longtime best friend Justin Oliveri, who is the other owner up at Root and has also done other restaurants in town in the past, he had opened up Cascadia on the north side, and was serving a vegan menu, and was calling me being like, dude, I don't think you understand how much vegan food I'm selling here. Like, it's crazy. And I was like, I don't really believe you. Like, I'm in Portland, this place that like vegan's not even like special. It's just another cuisine. Like, there's tons of vegan options. There's tons of vegan things in Portland, but in Spokane, which I knew and I had grown up in, but it'd been a while since I've been there. I was like, it's not a very vegan town, right? But he kept saying this, like, come on, bro, come out here. Let's do a fully vegan thing. And for a while, I was like, absolutely not. And then again, I got to a point where things in Portland were feeling a little stagnant. And it was like, you know what? Me and my wife sat down. I was like, our lease is up at this place. Like, should we sign on that lease or should we just bail? And honestly, I can't really remember exactly how it all happened, but it happened very quickly and we just bailed.
Was that 2020 then?
That was 2018, the end of 2018.
Okay.
And then I moved here in October of 2018.
Okay.
And we opened Root in April of 2019.
Oh, wow.
So I moved here, and very quickly afterwards, we found a spot, flipped it, opened up. And then, so I would say that it was Root, but now that I'm here, I think that Spokane has grown into something that is more my pace, and I enjoy being here at my age group now. Where maybe back in the day when I was younger, I was like, I don't want to go back to Spokane, but
right.
But now I'm excited about it. So I'm here for different reasons now. But yeah, Root was the reason.
Spokane's a vortex. I always say this, like people who leave Spokane to go to like bigger cities, they eventually seem to always come back to Spokane, and not in a negative way. It's usually a very positive thing, and like it takes like leaving in Spokane and then coming back to realize like how great Spokane is. I don't know. Did you have an experience like that, or did you always like Spokane before you left, or did you just like, I'm 19, I want to get out of here?
There was a little bit of that for sure. For me personally, I'm really into art in general, food, culture, all those kind of things are very important to me and and just who I am as a person, and where I live. I want that to like, reflect and be an inspiration to me. And so at the time when I left, it felt really narrow-minded for where I wanted to be in terms of food and music and just general mentality about diversity and how people maybe look at the world. I think it's easy to kind of paint things, one way or the other, and I'm not trying to do that. But from my perspective at the time, the kind of heavily conservative nature of Spokane was tiring to me. I was kind of like, I think that this place is beautiful. I love the nature and the geography of the space, and everything about Spokane is awesome. But there's something about the culture that was lacking for me, and I wanted some more. And Portland was the opposite effect of that. Portland was this like multifaceted, colored, like weird, shiny unicorn of a place. Yeah. And as a young person, that's super attractive. And I really enjoyed my time there and definitely learned a lot about who I wanted to be as an artist. And I think Spokane is going in that direction now. But at the time, I didn't have the foresight to see that as a child. Or as a kid. I mean, I wasn't a child, but I didn't understand that it would change. I kind of thought this will always be like this, but it's not, and we can change it.
We can absolutely,
So that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. That's a great perspective to have. I agree. Like I've never. Well, I came here when I was younger, and then I've been here my whole life. And I got married super young when I was 21, and we traveled, went to San Francisco, Austin, New York, places just like to kind of just get out of Spokane and kind of see what the world was like, and had thoughts of maybe moving to Austin or San Francisco just because of my wife's job, and that never really panned out. But you're right, like if I hadn't have experiences in these other places, I wouldn't have ever. I mean, I might have not be where I'm at today without going and experiencing art, not in Spokane.
Totally.
Back on the Cascadia thing about, I remember going to Cascadia. They were like the first restaurant in Spokane to have the Impossible Burger.
Shout out to Justin Oliveri.
Yeah, like
hands down.
Yeah, like that was like right when the Impossible Burger was just like kind of making waves, and you couldn't get it anywhere in Spokane. He couldn't.
He was figuring out how to do it, and let's just say it wasn't always it wasn't popular at all. And in Portland, he was able to get it. So he would call me up and go, "Bro, can you get me some of this?" And we would figure it out.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's not an owner of that place anymore, and we can't do that. But back then, it felt pretty revolutionary at the time, which is silly, but it is true.
That's funny. So you started at Mizuna, and is your cuisine most all vegan, chef? Like
no, not at all.
No, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what people know me as of now, and Root is completely vegan. But I've worked at a lot of different spaces, and in both Spokane and Portland, and it has covered a lot of ground. And I'm not really like much of a cuisine kind of chef, if you will. I'm way more into the feel and the experience and the end result, and technique and where things come from, and paying paying your respects to tradition is all important to me. But when it comes to just actually making food from how I feel when I make food, it's way more about how I feel emotionally. Like, what am I in the mood for? And I lean towards certain flavors or maybe certain cuisines, but it all goes and anything goes. And that's what's great about Root is that we're vegan cuisine, but that only means that we just don't use animal products.
Right.
We can do whatever we want, which is how the space I must live in now.
Yeah.
Picking one cuisine would be very hard for me.
I should ask, like, when you were opening Root and you were like, I mean, Mizuna existed, but I mean, they have meat on their menu, right? And so like, but opening a vegan only restaurant, like was that scary? Was it like, what was your thoughts? Like, I know like you did it and all I hear about is how amazing Root is and how I've been there once. Anyone who is looking for vegan or vegetarian cuisine, like I tell them to go to you. But just cause like, it's like the only place I really know that is just like you only focus on that. Like, but like, what was the thought process and like what were you scared most about?
I think the obvious thing that I was scared about was being perceived as rabbit food, or the whole like vegan is a personality trait or a political stance, or is, vegan, like people that maybe perceive people that eat vegan as a certain type of person. I was worried about that because from my understanding, vegan has nothing to do with who the human being is. It has everything to do with just the diet and what they're choosing to eat. And there's all sorts of people. There's very, very intense, very opinionated vegans. And I think I'm comfortable saying that everybody is annoyed with people like that on any extreme, right?
Right, yeah.
And then there's other people that are just very casual about it, and it's the choice for their diet, or it's just what they want to do. And there's all in between. And I think that I was just scared of being misunderstood, which is a natural thing.
Yeah, totally.
And I was also scared that I spent a good amount of time doing more fine dining kind of chefy kind of plates that I thought would go over people's heads if they were like, wait, this is all vegetables and it's kind of expensive and it's kind of fancy and fussy. So I was like, must make bar food, must make things that people are used to, like go for fake meats, go for things that people have already had. And I think it worked really well for the beginning phase of our relationship with Spokane. But now people just trust and appreciate us and realize that it's just good food. And most of our clients most of our customers are not vegan and they just love to come eat good food. So that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing to gain was two parts. Personally, on a passionate level, I feel very passionate about teaching people that eating plant-based, which is what we called ourselves for a very long time. We just chose to not use the word vegan intentionally. Plant-based is something that is just great for everybody. It's great for the planet. It's great for animals. It's great for humans. It's great for everything. And I'm not a scientist, and I'm not going to go into these deep arguments about what's good for the planet or how much this or that. I know it's very hot for people to argue about what you should or shouldn't do with what you eat and what we should do with the planet. And I'm not educated enough to be somebody who argues one of those things. I just know how I feel, and how I feel is that from the information that I've received, that eating plants is a good thing, and that I like animals a lot. So if we could eat less of them, I'm happy with that. And our planet's suffering. And if there's a way to change our diet to help that, I'm in. Yeah. That's literally the base of it. And it's just to open up people's minds about plant-based eating, not to tell people that they shouldn't eat animals. Yeah. Not to tell people that they should only eat plants. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think it's fair. I think it's very off-putting to people. And then your intention is not being, reached out like you want it to, because you're just being an ass about it, or people just can't understand it. One or the other, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I commend you for opening a space that is, it is vegan and plant-based, because I look at restaurants that open in Spokane, and there's kind of just like a blueprint for like the kind of restaurants that open, and like I don't see it. There's not a ton of restaurants that are making risky moves to try something different, and to see someone open something that's completely different and have people rethink the way they look at how a restaurant can be, should be celebrated more in Spokane. And it's cool to see it exist. I used to live on 12th and Monroe, where me and my wife first lived. So we used to go to Peekaboo Bistro all the time. Yeah. And when it closed, we were not upset, but we were sad. But it was so nice to see another place come in that, was cared about what they're creating there. Like it was, and I'm sure a lot of people who had gone to Peekaboo who've now come to Root, like you probably have heard it, that you probably have a lot of those customers.
Yeah, for sure. Back when we first opened, especially.
Yeah. I have the article I read in Illander was about Restaurant Week from 2020, and I got to ask about COVID, because COVID in restaurants were just like it just kind of changed our landscape in the United States even to this point. Like I just read an article that Gordy's Szechuan up on the South Hill is going to become takeout only.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate because that's just. So like, how did COVID affect Root, and like, how did you change much afterwards, and like, and what did you do during it to kind of make it work?
Well, yeah, it affected Root greatly. We opened in April of 2019 and shut down before the first year of being open. So we were open for like maybe 8 months or something.
Yeah,
and at the time we just did what a lot of people did, which is just kind of freaked out and shut down. And we're like, let's keep everybody safe, which obviously was subjective at the time and hard to understand what that meant. But
right.
and that was really painful, but we were just worried about keeping people safe. And once we realized that there was like, okay, this is just the way it's going to be for a while. We need to figure out how to rerun, or like how to remodel this business, and how can we make this work? We just went into the to-go model like everybody did. And honestly, I didn't expect it to, but it went really well considering. At the time, we were very in-house based. We would have a line out the door every night. Our space isn't very big, but it would always be full. We're very focused on spending more time and energy on the plating and on the like, the ambiance and the atmosphere and the cocktails and all those things. That was kind of our bread and butter, was like, come in-house, you'll have a great time. And then it was like, just joking, we're going to put all this in a box.
Right.
And that was kind of hard, but we just kind of focused on making sure we had staples that people were interested in, having things that people could get during lunch or on the go or whatever, alongside of maybe some of our more expensive or chefy items. And the community responded really well to it. I think obviously we were doing something right, but probably more importantly, we're filling a niche that is not being filled very much in Spokane. So there's a handful of other places, shout out to Allie's, Boots. There's a couple other options that are doing vegan stuff. It's just, there was nothing quite like what we were doing. And I think that made it easy for people to seek us out, even in the midst of COVID.
Yeah.
And then after we were able to reopen, it was just a matter of, how can we blend these two worlds?
Yeah.
How can we continue to have in-house service that's special and unique and whatnot? But how can we make money while we're doing this? Also, how can we put up 30, 40% of our sales into go food, even to this day, which flipped overnight on COVID? So a lot of change, but fluidity is needed in business, especially in restaurants. And I think just rolling with the punches and figuring out how to change with things is probably the main focus for me in my businesses, as opposed to come up with one plan and make that plan as good as possible and stick to it.
Yeah.
It's like, be ready for it. You got to be ready to change.
It's very much of a adapt or die mentality, because, and I think the restaurants that have, really succeeded after COVID, have really embraced that to-go model. And I didn't even think about that. Like, being, plant-based, and like, I'm sure that helps out with like getting a lot of, because not everyone can get up there.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to talk about the Chameleon and like that menu, everything that's gonna be happening there. But before we do that, we're gonna take a quick little break and play the Spokast hot list. It's just a list of words. I'm gonna say a word, and you're gonna say the first word that comes to your mind as it relates to Spokane. These can be some of your favorite places or places you like to go. But I always start with an easy one. Park.
Manitou.
Coffee.
I'm going to say New Love right now. I'm vibing, but I'm also not a huge coffee connoisseur at the moment. So I just like the vibes.
Do you like tea? Do you the tea guy?
I like coffee. I like tea.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a lot of these like plant-based energy drinks for my caffeine intake. I love coffee, but I know more about food. Let's just say that. I don't want to speak because I know somebody's to be like, how dare you?
Beer.
Oof.
I should have asked you, do you drink?
I do drink. I don't drink very much. I'm much more of a cocktail person now than I used to be. I love beer. Beer does not love me. Or sorry, my stomach does not love beer is what I mean. So I'm really typically going for lighter stuff. And I was so spoiled in Portland. This is tough, man. I'm the wrong person to do this with, by the way.
I should actually probably switch this. Like I should ask people before, do you want to talk about beer or cocktails? Like where do you like what's a cocktail you love?
Oh, Black Manhattan. I'm an old grandpa. Okay. I like spirit forward stuff. I like Amaro. I love a bitter, strong drink. And you drink one or two of them and it smacks you in the mouth and it smacks you in the head and it works.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that.
Artist.
Oh, Jang the Goon, my dog.
Burger.
I haven't been eating really many meat burgers, if any, so I don't want to speak in that category.
Yeah.
I haven't had any burgers, man. I'm sorry.
No worries. Is there a good I'm sorry, do you have a do you have a plant-based burger? Like do you have at
Root? Yeah, we got a couple of them.
Oh yeah,
so the jalapeno mushroom burger at Root is classic and people love it, but I'm burned out because I've been selling it for a long time. But yeah, that would be one of my favorites if I wasn't the creator of it. I don't know. It feels so weird. That is just plugging my own restaurant. Do
you eat a lot at your restaurant? Like, or do you just are you testing stuff? Like, are you making stuff and testing it and then?
Of course. The thing is that over the past year or so, I've passed a lot of the duties on to management at Root. I have a really great team over there. I've hired a chef. I've hired a general manager. I've hired people to help me with this. So I'm doing less and less stuff at Root as I grow. But yeah, I taste stuff all the time. In terms of eating, it's this balance of, depending on what my schedule is, it's just what can I eat to not die? And then also the other, argument on this shoulder is but you must eat healthy.
Yeah.
And restaurant food really isn't healthy, however you look at it, even if it's vegan. So I don't eat a ton at Root, but I do, yeah. And it's, honestly, man, I've been eating the same things. I wear the same clothes. My life has been so busy that I've turned into that. I have a uniform. I have a system, and it's kind of boring for a chef or an artist, but it's working for me. I eat bean burritos all day, every day. Yeah,
I mean that's the one thing I always hear about successful people is that they come up with they take away the stuff that's monotonous and and they just make it very simple, and they just wear Steve Jobs. He ate the same thing, he wore the same thing, and it is a sign of a successful person.
Which is awkward because I don't think I ever thought of it that way. I almost was embarrassed about it, but I guess it does help to not. I'm an anxious person. It's easy for me to have indecision. So. I like just being no, dude, do what works.
So when you're making a burrito, so you make your own burritos at home?
I do.
Do you make your own bean, refry? Do you or do
sometimes? This morning, my wife made me some, and there was some really nice canned beans, but they were thoughtful canned beans.
Oh, okay.
But other times we make our own, and I do a lot of egg burritos too now. Yeah, so eggs and beans. And vegetables, lots of avocado.
Oh yeah, I only ask because I eat breakfast burritos in the morning as well, and I use turkey meat, but yeah, I love making a little breakfast burrito with eggs in it. Is so freaking good.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Breakfast or brunch, we're at.
I would say IPK.
Yeah, I need to go.
I haven't been around that much lately, but definitely back when I would go often, that was my spot. Yeah.
Neighborhood.
I'm a really big fan of how the South Hill feels. I mean, it's a broad area, but just because it reminds me a little bit more of Portland with the wider streets and the style of the homes and the trees and whatnot. I like Brown's Addition. Yeah. Everything is so hard to compare to Portland.
Right.
In Portland, there's 15 to 20 incredible neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And then there's another 20 good neighborhoods. Here, I feel like there's 10 neighborhoods.
Yeah.
and then a couple of them are good and some of the rest of them are whatever.
Totally. I think, whenever I go visit Portland, I also think Portland's neighborhoods are blocks long. They're some of them are, I don't know them by name, but there's one I stayed in when I went there back in 2019, and it was a neighborhood, but it was It was near the McMinimans. That is the old school.
Kennedy School.
Kennedy School. So I stayed in that neighborhood, and we just walked up and down that main street with all the restaurants and shops, and I was just like, this is a neighborhood in Portland that we call like the Perry District of neighborhood, and it's a neighborhood, but the place is like a block, 2 blocks long.
Yeah,
like there, it's like there's so much.
Yeah. Well, what you said is exactly why I struggle to pick my favorite here.
Yeah.
Because a big part of what makes me enjoy your neighborhood is not just like the feel and the houses and the way it looks, but also having access to restaurants and local businesses.
Yeah.
Where I'm very used to here. I live on the north side out by Country Homes, and I like my neighborhood. It's beautiful. I love my home, but there's nothing around it that is walkable. Very little local stuff. It's mostly chain stuff. And that's the part where I'm like, I don't really feel like hanging out here as much.
Yeah.
So I don't attach myself to the neighborhood as much. I'm more like, I'm going to go find out where I want to hang out. Where in Portland, you really can just stay in one spot and get everything you need depending on where you're at. And that to me feels more like something that I'm into neighborhood wise. So, but there's beautiful places all over the city. I'm not talking crap. I don't want to be negative.
No, not at all.
I just struggle picking my favorites of anything, really.
It is tough. Pizza.
We get a vegan pie from Versalia that we really like. I think Wood and City puts out some good pies. We'll start there.
Yeah. Event.
Event. It's just kind of a case by case basis. I really like, what Terrain's doing, but it's not the only thing that I enjoy. I think there's a lot of one-off local events that I enjoy. But okay, I will say that Terrain stood out to me first, and this is what you asked me to do, which I failed miserably.
No, you're fine.
Is to just give you one word answer. Is that I do enjoy when I go to Terrain, I see a large amount of people that I don't normally see in the art community coming out at once, and I go, okay, that's right. People here like art.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very warm feeling for me in this city specifically.
Yeah.
Because in other places, it's not hard to find people that like art. Here, I think sometimes it's hard. And not that they don't exist. It's just you don't feel it all the time. Terrain's that friendly reminder. It's like, oh, there's actually quite a few people that like art. This is good.
It's nuts. Like I was a part of Terrain this year, and to see everyone come in and like just take it in, like it is unlike anything you can experience in Spokane at one given time. And you're right, like people just they show up and you haven't seen them in forever.
Yeah.
I saw multiple people that I hadn't seen in years that I connected with at Terrain, and that makes it feel very special.
Totally.
And the last question is music venue.
I would say Lucky You Lounge, which will now be the Chameleon.
Yeah, well, it's a great transition. How did this opportunity come about to get into Lucky You and reopen it as a Chameleon?
I don't really know. I have no idea.
When Lucky You closed, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Sadness.
Yeah.
Fear. Concern. I know what it's like to run a business. I know Caleb and Carly well, and the owners of Lucky You, the old owners. There's a lot of personal and emotional things that were tied to it. And then there's also the aspect of, if you zoom out a little bit, like, well, what does this mean for Spokane? And, all those things. So there was definitely a lot of fear and stuff. I was not in the mindset or the market to be accepting a new project. So I wasn't thinking about myself. But apparently a lot of other people were. And I guess to answer your question of how it came up, that's what it was people suggesting it to me.
Yeah.
You should do that. You should do this. You'd be great at that. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds impossible. I've always wanted to do that, but I know the amount of money it takes to get into something like that is insane.
Yeah.
And I'm just in a space in life where I wasn't stocked on cash and ready to do a new endeavor, if you know what I mean. But however, the universe continued to push me into a direction that was like, no, this is it. And this is what you should be doing. And it's not going to look like the way you want it to. You're not going to be able to control it like you did Root. And yeah, so I guess to answer, how did it happen? The universe.
The universe.
I hate saying that, but it's very true.
Yeah.
It pushed me into it. Every wrong thing was always smoothed out somehow. All these hurdles that would have stopped me just got cleared out of the way and was just like, do it.
What was the first hurdle that you had to overcome?
Emotional stability. No, just trying to wrap my head around it. I think I was just really there's some inherent trauma that comes with running businesses, but especially hospitality. I know people talk about this, but I think it's hard for people to understand how difficult it can be to operate these places. And so knowing what I know about the industry, both music and in hospitality, I was like, oh boy, this is a big one. This is a tough one. The other hurdles were really just a matter of figuring out if I was going to be able to afford to do it. And the universe provided some magical angel investors that came in and just said, hey, local people that I don't know very well came to me and said, I want to give you money for this project.
That's awesome.
It's incredible.
That's amazing.
I honestly still don't, when I say it out loud, I get the chills a little bit and I feel weird.
Are they silent? Or they do?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I should have talked to them before this.
Right.
I've tried to cover all my ends, but I honestly am not very prepared for this because I've been so incredibly distracted.
Yeah,
but,
no worries.
Yeah, people that I don't think that I'm sure names will come up, and people that are great and in the community, and it just was so unexpected, and it so gave me that feeling that it was like, hey, this really isn't about you. Like this isn't about like how can you make a business that's viable.
Right.
Like Root was that. Root was like, I want to do something I'm passionate about, but how can I make a business?
Yeah.
This is more, how can I get back into the community? How can I preserve something that's important to this community so that this place is more enjoyable for me and my family and my friends to live in? Yeah. And then also, huge kicker, how do you make it a business so you could keep it open?
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers it.
Yeah, but well, I'm sure. You're opening it. It's happening on March 1st. You're going to be opening the Chameleon. What hasn't changed at the space that is going to be similar?
Okay. Yeah. So to tie it back into another reason that made this possible was all of the work that Carly and Caleb put into that space beforehand. Yeah. That was built into the building, which was a ton of work, and none of this would be possible without what they did. Yeah. By the way, I want to make that very, very clear that those two people have cut this path into this, the music scene here in a way that I'm so grateful for. And I think people underestimate, because without somebody going out on a limb and going for it and risking it and maybe even failing, there is no sight of how it's possible. So not only did they put in the physical blood, sweat, tears, money, all that kind of stuff, but they also cut an expectation for people that says, we can be this, we can do this, we can be this city that has this vibrant scene. They proved that. So I have to give huge thanks to them, big props to them. Yeah. Also, everything they did to that building with Dan Spalding as well made it possible for me to come in, do my own thing at a more minimal level in terms of price, because it was already built to be a music venue. So that helped a lot. That got me into the ability to do that. What is not going to change about Lucky You to the Chameleon is the core layout. So we didn't do any serious construction. We didn't break down, we didn't reimagine the whole thing. It was working quite well. Yeah. So it's the same building. We haven't been able to paint the outside because of the weather and money. So it looks very similar. But the inside, I feel like we've done quite a bit of different things that make it feel different. And then the production and the aspects of the sound and the visuals and the art aspects, I think we've really ramped up. And that's where it's going to probably stand out as being different. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool. Let's talk about the food. Like, you also have a restaurant. Like, so that, I feel like that's like, when you talk about building a business, like businesses don't usually do one thing. Like the Chameleon kind of has to do both things, and that is always tough at a venue. Because you want to have food, but you also want to make you want to make money. It's very difficult. Like there's a lot of overhead, obviously.
Insane amount of overhead.
What's the food going to be like at the Chameleon?
The food is going to be, at least for the start, an Asian street food influenced bar menu. So it'll be pretty small and pared down fast. It'll be counter service and casual, but it'll still be exciting and thoughtful and unique and different. it's really hard to think about how I can be unique and different in the food realm while also being event based and serving to a crowd of people that are there to mostly be entertained and drink beverages, whatever the beverages they are. People do want to eat, but a restaurant is a place where people come to eat. A music venue is where people come to watch music. Mixing those two things was complicated, I think, for Lucky You. And I think they did a great job juggling those things. They did both those things well, but in terms of a business model and figuring out how to make that work, I think it was definitely one of the more challenging things money-wise was how can we keep this restaurant afloat, keep it open all week, but a majority of our business is on these show nights.
Yeah.
And it's like in this small window, everybody wants to eat right before the show, and it's like gotta happen fast because the show is about to start. It's like just a different beast.
Yeah.
So we're doing something that's thoughtful and unique, and it's something that people are going to go, wow, we don't have this in Spokane really, which is the, Asian street food. But also something that's like, I can get this in a basket and crush it right before the set. And I don't feel weird eating this. It's not like a very sit down, prim and proper, got to have my whole meal thing. I can just grab it on the go and get it. So, and I don't know how I got so lucky, but I have, in my opinion, one of the most talented chefs in the entire region, the city for sure, Austin Conklin. He's
oh my God.
Exactly.
I did not know that. Why did I know? Is that a secret?
It wasn't until now, or it was until now.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so effing cool. I'm so excited that Austin, I don't know Austin like personally. I know him through friends and I interviewed Chad White a month ago, and he was just like, Austin Conklin's the best, one of the best chefs in Spokane.
There you go.
And he should have won best local chef multiple times, and that's exciting. That's so cool.
I'm glad that you understand, because I'm just as excited as you are.
Yeah.
And I've known him for a while, and I've always wanted to work with him and try to figure out, hey, how can we create a concept where we could do this together? And it just kind of happened naturally and organically.
Yeah.
I called him up because I was in a little bit of a pinch, and my plan for this project was like, you need to hire somebody else to be the chef. I really wanted to focus on the production. I really wanted to focus on the sound and the lights and the visuals and the booking and all that stuff, because that's the part that I'm really into. And I'm really into food as well, but I've been doing food. So I'm like, I want to do something different a little bit. But I need the food to be good because there's this expectation, Also, I like good food. But I hit him up and said, hey, man, I need some help. I need to help make a menu. I need to help maybe finding a chef. And he sits down, and by the end of the conversation, he's like, I want to give it a shot. Let's do it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Did we just talk about you like being the person that I need? And he's like, yeah, dude, I want to. And he's excited, and he's there. He's there right now. I just left him. He's working hard. He's amazing.
Yeah. That's
very
cool.
excited about him.
We'll talk about the music, because you were mentioning like you want to bring another level of stage design, of what happens at the event, like happens at the venue. Like what are you going to be doing to kind of raise that bar?
Yes, that is the fun part for me. Put a lot of energy and time and effort and money into revamping the sound system, the lighting system, and we are adding projection mapping to the entire venue as it sees fit. The base layer of what Lucky You had was so incredible that it gave me a chance to put my effort and my money into just improving, instead of like, how can I just make a stage and how can I just have a band here? They already did all that work. So I was able to put fine tune into it, and the sound system's incredible. Added all the firing power to make sure that room can do any genre of music, including EDM, heavy bass stuff, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to have a lot more of the club potential, which I think is fun. And there's a lack of that in Spokane in terms of places to go and dance and listen to electronic music and stuff. The lighting system is insanely overkill. I have a very, very, very talented, this is another person that falls in the same category as Austin. Grant Greer is a local lighting legend. This man travels around the world with large groups doing lighting for huge bands and these massive things. And he's this young cat, and he just wants to help. And he's been a part of our circle for a while, and he's going insane in the space. He's making it look so incredibly cool.
That's so cool.
The lighting, the projection, we got old school TVs and different live feeds. And there's just all this interactive kind of immersive feeling stuff that'll make it just feel like a little bit more like maybe like a trippy art gallery mixed with the venue, kind of like, have you heard Meow Wolf before?
Yeah.
So I don't want to act like we're being Meow Wolf, because we're definitely not, but we're leaning more towards that than just a traditional music venue. My wife, who's an extremely talented painter, Hazel Miller, she's doing a lot of very large scale murals in the space, and curating a lot of really great art and different trinkets and stuff. And then that mixed with the visuals and the more like techie kind of, projection and lighting things, with Grant's doing that, is just this like, we're calling it a dreamscape. It's a visual dreamscape of sorts. It's just making the space pretty much wherever you go, there's something interesting to look at. And I'm really excited about that part.
That's so cool. Like when you say 3D mapping, like I just think like of being able to like create a scene like in that space, like on the wall, like when we were doing Good Growth last year, the one thing we were talking about, like how do we make something more immersive, like with like just the projection that we have, and like we landed on just doing the video game, hooking up a Super Nintendo to it. But I was just like, it would be so cool to like just have a scene behind, you could just kind of change it. Yeah. And that's what you're saying you can do? Like,
well, yeah. And including on the sidewall. So if you imagine looking at the stage to the right, there was a whole bunch of curtains that covered up windows. We've made that entire wall a projection screen. So it's 15 feet long.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. And it's like 6 feet high. And so the projection screen that is on the stage is still there, and we put a short throw projection screen there, and then there's more to the side, and then that's all connected to the lights, which carry into the rest of the space.
Yeah.
So everything is synced together in a way that it makes the whole space kind of like interactive with the show.
Wow.
So even when you're out by the bar and hanging out, you can still kind of see the stage, and you can still hear things. Yeah.
So does every act that comes in, like, do they have the opportunity to kind of manipulate that? Or are you kind of like curating it for like every event?
Both. So there's in-house baseline kind of things, and it's not always appropriate to have a bunch of flashy lights and projections. There's going to be shows where we'll just have it off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But there's in-house things that we can do on a base level. I can bring in people like Grant to come do nightly shows to do unique things. And then also a lot of touring acts will have their own lighting directors, or they're able to send visual content to us that we can upload into it. So it'll be very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Integratable.
Yeah.
They can kind of come in and just plug in their own stuff. We thought about that really hard. Like, how can we make this crazy setup easy for somebody else to use?
Right. That's awesome. So what about the basement? I know the basement is always a big part of Lucky You, and I'm sure for the Chameleon, it won't change. That won't change, will it?
It won't be open right away.
Okay.
So we're only open the upstairs first. So there's just so much to do, and we just want to get open and are excited. And so we are pushing the basement off till probably more like April. But we're redoing that, redoing the stage, the sound and the lighting, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Making it a little bit larger of a stage and more accessible to larger groups and bands, kind of opening the space up and redoing the bar down there. But we're also going to install the proper barricades necessary to have it be an all ages option.
Nice.
So that's something that I think is really hard to find in the city. There's only a handful of places that do it. So I wanted a space that was a very strong, could hold on its own venue, and people would want to come play there on their own, but also was all ages, but also happened to be in the space of this other larger scale, even more extensive venue, and be able to operate them individually if we want to.
Yeah.
So smaller shows that require a little less production or less ticket sales can go in the basement, upstairs, and that'll help us keep our cost at a reasonable place, as opposed to having them both open all the time, which will happen in certain events. But 10,000 square feet is a lot to staff. Mm-hmm. So trying to figure out how to really compartmentalize those two spaces, and we're actually treating it like it's just a separate venue. I don't know if you're familiar with Numos and Barboza in Seattle. Mm-hmm. Same same building.
Yeah.
2 venues, one's upstairs, one's downstairs, ran by the same people, but 2 different names.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
that will make it easier to make it an 18 and over, like not 18 over, all ages.
The space itself, you have to have barricades for all ages shows between the bar.
Oh,
so people that are under 21 can't get to a certain distance away from the bar. It's kind of funny, but it is the rules.
Yeah.
Upstairs, that option, because of how the bar is set up, is less doable. It would kind of, to put a permanent barrier up against the bar would really cut the flow of things down. Mm-hmm. Or downstairs, the way it's set up, it's just it's easier to do that. Mm-hmm. So I'll be able to, for a reasonable price, put up a barricade, and I could switch between all ages shows or 21, and it'll still feel natural.
Yeah.
Where upstairs, it's just tighter in the bar area in terms of where you line up, and it's just harder to monitor having minors.
Yeah.
There's multiple exits. There's all these things. And we might one day think about it, but it just doesn't seem like an easy option right now.
It sounds like kind of a logistical nightmare.
Exactly. That's the problem.
I should ask about the bar. I know I'm kind of going out of order, but like the bar menu, like, do you have a bar manager? Like,
I do.
Can you say who they are?
I can. We'll just talk about another really talented person here. Greta Heminger. She's our general manager up at Root. She's doing our bar program and doing some management down there as well. And she's got a really great, we're calling it Lush Libations. It's kind of more fun, maybe tropical influence, more colorful, more unique ingredients cocktail program, but still simple for a venue so you can grab it on the go and you don't feel like you're, having this $20 cocktail that you're about to break at the club,
Right, yeah.
But, bright, fun ingredients, stuff that matches the vibe of the Chameleon, which is shape shifting. That's our thing.
I was going to ask, like, the name of the Chameleon, is that shape shifting? Like, what was where'd you land on the name at?
It's a funny thing coming up with names. We've done this quite a few times now, and creating a brand is way harder than you would imagine in terms of, okay, well, once you have a name that you like, how do you figure out how to get people to associate to that name? And then like, how does your model like relate to that name? And then like, how does it look? And what's the tone of the voice of that name? And all these things that play a role. And I think Root has its own thing that works really well for its demographic, but the Chameleon is a much larger space, but also larger demographic. We're covering so many different types of people here because the diversity of shows we're doing here is going to bring in like literally all different types of people.
Yeah.
So it was very intentional with the shape-shifting thing. My wife and I love animals. I'm kind of lizardy. My brain is a little like, like fast and like, and that some people that might sound negative, and some people are like, chameleon, that's like a bad thing. And it's like, no, I really like chameleons. And I think it plays into this shape-shifting thing really well, in the sense that we're able to, with 1 minute, we're going to, have a nice, chill, quiet folk evening, a singer-songwriter music, and the ambiance is glowy and it feels appropriate. And then fast forward maybe even 4 hours later, and then all of a sudden the club crew shows up and strobes and flashy visuals. And then the next night a psychedelic band comes in and we're doing all this trippy stuff. And then the next night it's like a corporate event. And then, you know what I mean? And that's important to us to be a community space that's accessible to everybody. And you got to be shape-shifting if you want to do that.
That's awesome. But like, so booking, like, how are you running the booking, or is that going to be like, since you're doing all the music stuff?
Yeah. So this is kind of a new territory for me. Most of my booking experience has been from the artist end, working with the venues instead of the other way around. I have some very talented friends that are helping me out. Riker at Direct Influx is helping me with some stuff. And then Caleb actually from Lucky You is helping me with as well. But yeah, I'm doing a majority of the booking and I'm learning. It's very, very much a full-time job, and it's very hectic while I'm also trying to create the brick and mortar aspect of things. So my main focus is to be as diverse as possible within a few parameters. And those parameters are, first and foremost, we're looking to create a safe environment. So no bigotry, no hate, none of that.
Yeah.
But anything goes other than that. And then also it has to make sense business-wise. So this is something that I think has been really danced around in the music industry in terms of transparency about what it is to run a venue and why we're charging for this or that, and how we're treating bands and artists. I've been on the artist aspect of things for a long time. I've been mistreated many, many times, but I also run a business, and now I understand if you don't have parameters and very thoughtful business moves, you will not remain open. And that makes this not an option for any artist. So being very clear with people, hey, this is what it cost me to open this room. And we're event-based. So if we don't do your event, I'll be closed. This cost me this much, so we have to hit a certain mark so that I know that I'm not going in the hole to open this up, or at least dramatically.
Yeah.
And if we do well, I'm willing to share that with you, and willing to do that in a way that is fair for everybody and everybody's happy with, but it has to be talked about and transparent, not just, oh, I got a band, I like your music, I think you're cool, let's just do it, and then find out night of, well, then maybe this was a bad idea. I just lost $1,500 to have a local band play that didn't put out any marketing or advertising. And it's like, should that really be on us? Like, I want to protect this because I know if we're not open, we can't have any influence.
Yeah.
If we're open, we can have influence. So don't be a hateful bigot and be reasonable about business, and we'll do a show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I mean, I helped do 2 shows at Lucky last year, and I will say, like, it was such a learning experience, and I just like and it wasn't ever clear either. Like, I will say, like, it was very, I didn't know what was going on. Like, I didn't know ticket sales. I didn't know, like, I should probably have been asking these questions, but, like, the not knowing how many ticket sales were a week before a show and that you've only sold this many was the most stressful thing in my life. And then you're like hoping that people show up, like, because Spokane is a freaking show up day of town.
Yeah.
And I feel like that needs to change.
I hope so.
Talk about the first opening weekend. You got 2 shows on the March 1st and March 2nd. Nothing Shameful is headlining the first night. And then the second night is Travis Thompson and Jing Dagoon. And it's just, I was looking at the lineup. I can't go to both. I'm going to try to go to one of them, but how did you come about planning this?
Well, we were trying to figure out a way to set a tone.
Yeah.
And when we talk about this diverse mix of different things, it's like, well, how do we depict this? You don't want to have a night where it's 4 different bands that are wildly different genres and don't blend well together.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to do just a rock or a hip hop night, which is what we're starting with. So we actually extended it to 4 nights. So the 8th and the 9th are also part of opening weekend. That's opening weekend volume 2. We just dropped the poster like 2 days ago. So that'll be the 8th is an R&B soul funk night, and then the 9th is like a singer-songwriter folk country kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
So we just took 4 genres and just kind of packed them out with great artists, both local and regional talent. Riker and Direct Influx are teaming up with us, and Chameleon Presents to put that together. And it's basically just a celebration and a party to get things kicking and just kind of show what we're capable of right off the bat, and just say, and it kind of just, it came naturally. Trying to book shows before you're open is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, we have to fill these things out. We want people here, but it feels right to have it be kind of local or regional, and be something thought out from somebody that lives here and is here, instead of just, bringing in a touring act and just having a show, which is fine.
Yeah.
We want to do something a little bit more special.
That's so cool. Yeah, no, seeing Kung Fu Vinyl on here and then Carly's group, Alcohol and Feelings.
Yeah.
Is Cassandra Lewis local?
No, she's from Portland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very talented person.
Awesome. That's just so. Oh, and I didn't even know. I didn't even see that you can pay $30 for both nights.
Yeah.
Is that for both weekends too?
Yep.
That's
totally.
That's so cool. Oh man, there's so much that's happening. What are you most excited about, like, starting the Chameleon, and like what it is going to bring to this community?
On a personal level, I'm most excited about falling back in love with music.
Yeah.
Be it by being around it a lot again.
Mhm.
I've been in the restaurant thing a little bit heavy lately, and it's kind of pulled me away from, even though I still do a lot of music stuff, it's pulled me away from my deep love and connection for that. And I'm excited to share that with the community. I want a space where people are just excited about going out again and feeling safe to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This town has incredible people in it, and there's a lot of different communities and groups of people that are underrepresented or maybe don't feel safe in certain environments.
Yeah.
And that to me is like the number one chokehold on culture as a whole in a city, is when people don't feel safe being themselves. Yeah. Whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about people going, oh, there's other people like me, and we're into the same kind of thing, and we can go have a good time together in a space of people that actually care. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. No, there's a lot that goes with that, but that's the core.
It really is, like, being inclusive and just being safe and being able to go to a place that you can just, like you said, be yourself and just have a dance or do like this. The nights of the last 7 years of my life, or I guess it hasn't even been that long, but 5 years, like going to Lucky You, going to like emo night, going to the different shows I've been to. Like, it's just Lucky You was very special, but like it was always, you always felt good there.
Yep.
And that's why I think like the Chameleon even excites me more, because I feel like there's a little bit more intention there. Like, I'm not saying that there wasn't back then, but like you're thinking a lot more about some of the things that like, of like stage design and just bringing a different experience that like when you leave, you're going to like be like, I need to go to the next show at the Chameleon because it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's no, like, these are all these bands that are going to open this first 2 weekends. Like, you're going to probably get a different experience and a different group of people every night. But then you're going to see a lot of the same people too. Like, and that's really cool. Like I've really found people that I've like just love from going there so much. And I should ask, like, is anyone from Lucky You coming back?
I do have a couple people. Yeah. That's a topic that a lot of people ask about. A lot of people have been reaching out for jobs. It's been really hard for me to keep up with it. Greta is doing a great job of kind of fielding this and helping us with management stuff. We have a couple of people coming back, and it's just really more a matter of kind of trying to start over fresh in some ways, not to avoid what was happening at Lucky You, but to just kind of set a new tone.
Yeah.
So there'll be some familiar faces, but there'll also be, some unfamiliar faces. And it's kind of a rotating, it's like a revolving door kind of thing where in the industry, there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Lucky You had a really strong family thing going on. They kept a lot of people for a while that was really special and great. And I respect that. But I also know that that's not possible to just kind of create or to just like, we'll just bring all those people back and it'll be the same. So we're kind of starting back from the ground up, and it's going to be a little hectic at first figuring out because who works there is very important.
Yeah.
Setting that tone that you're talking about, that vibe, that feel good feeling comes from who works there and the people that care about it. So I'm putting a lot of energy into making sure that whoever's there, whether I know them or not, is on the same page about that, so that literally just the physical energy of those people being in the space will perpetuate what our goal is, and not just be there to pour drinks or run security or whatever, but because they feel the same way. And I feel like that'll just magnify that feeling that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, you're creating a culture. So like when you're creating a culture and you're making a shift, like there going to be some similarities, but there's also, you want to set your own culture and make it your own thing. You don't want it to be Lucky You again.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's why you didn't just call it Lucky You.
Yeah. It's a sore subject for some people, and it's an interesting thing because I have a lot of respect and love for Lucky You, and so making choices to do my own thing has nothing to do with feeling negative about it or trying to get away from it. It's actually quite the opposite in many ways. What you talked about being more intentional about some of these things is only possible because of what they did and what I learned there as a customer, an artist, as an employee. I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for them. So it's really a lot more connected than people think, but it's also not as connected as you might think. And, and it's not the same thing. And I do want it to be different, but we love what was done there and we want to build upon that. But I think the best way to do that is to kind of shift.
Yeah. Totally.
And to just go, kind of refresh people's mindsets a little bit.
Well, I feel like that's a great way to think of the Chameleon as a shift. And it sounds like I just love it. Well, how can everyone find you? Is it social media stuff? Is the Chameleon Spokane?
It's Chameleon Spokane is our handle, and then chameleonspokane.com is our website, and you should be able to find everything through that. We're still working on being up to date with all of our socials and stuff. We're a little behind on some of that stuff, but Instagram, our website, Facebook, it's all there. Check us out. We got events coming up left and right, stuff going on every weekend in March, filling up the whole month. It may not look like a lot's going on, but there is in the background, and it's all going to kind of come flooding in over the next week.
Totally. I was going to ask, is the hours going to be, Monday through Sunday, or are you going to be closed certain days?
We will be closed every day that we don't have an event.
Oh,
so we're going to be event based for now, and we're still kind of navigating this. I have a feeling that we might change one day.
Yeah.
But until I can get a really strong structure, we're just going to be event based because it's just kind of all over the place. And we're still open often, but it's not going to be the same. And until I think we establish a really strong walk-up community thing, which is kind of different, because that's the other thing that's different is that we're doing ticket events or free events, but only. So coming there in the space to get into the upstairs, you would have to have a ticket. So it's not the type of place that you just walk up and say, hey, we're going to have a drink and eat, but we're not going to go to the show. That being said, that could change.
Yeah.
The basement could be an option for that one day.
Mhm.
As of right now, it's kind of more like the Knitting Factory or the Dipper, if you will, where it's like we're open when we have a show.
That makes total sense. Like,
Yeah.
because when I did a show there, like you get people to just come and hang out before the show,
Yeah.
but then they don't stay for the show.
Right. You got to kick them out or something. Yeah,
And
it's kind of
like,
weird.
Yeah, and like, but that makes total sense. Like, if you want to get in, like, you gotta pay a ticket to get in, and
Yeah.
I think that's very smart.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, this was a fantastic conversation. I'm excited for the Chameleon coming to Spokane and having this new music venue. I just think it's merging art and like music. I mean, music and art are the same, but like having like visuals and other pieces of it makes me really excited to see what it becomes. And I got to end on the last question I always ask is, why Spokane?
For me or for the business?
For you.
Because it is the next best option in the region, which I love, the Northwest, for up and coming cities. The geography and just where the city lands in the river and the mountains are incredibly beautiful, which is very important to me.
Yeah.
And I think the people even if I didn't know this all the time, are more my people than I thought. And I look forward to meeting more of those kind of people here and associating that community energy with Spokane, as opposed to when I, travel or lived other cities. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have faith in Spokane.
Yeah.
I have moments where maybe I have negative ideas about it, but I have faith in Spokane, and I think it's going to be the next up and coming thing, and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. And I should ask this as my last question, like, because it is going to piggyback on the business idea. Like, why does Spokane need the Chameleon?
There's nothing like it. And Spokane is a very vast, sprawled, pretty populated space. I know people want music and they want culture and they want community. There's not enough in that sector, especially that mid-level. I mean, mid for Spokane, but like, the thoughtful small to medium room where you can bring in kind of like almost a little bit of a larger band, but it's still intimate, but it feels super pro. The space that is really into art and music, not just a corporate large event center that happens to have events, or small businesses that happen to just throw shows up alongside of their restaurant or whatever. And there's exceptions, but not enough for how many people are here and how many great artists we have and how many great people probably want to come to the region.
Absolutely.
We're in the middle of some great things. People go right through us all the time. Let's get them to stop here.
Yeah, let's stop that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, again, Josh, thank you so much for coming on Spokast. This has been amazing, and thank you all for listening. Go to one of the opening nights, go to all the nights, do whatever you can, but buy your tickets early and support the Chameleon. We need this place.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Peace.
Tupac's greatest hits. Speaking of changes, I want to change this game like I'm losing in Madden 30-6. Like that, y'all. Some people, they fiend for things they've already seen. I think they wanted me to be like that, y'all. But it wasn't my scene. I started doing these things that made them say they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that, y'all. Hell no, they can't do it like that. Hold up. Without a day, without a day. Hey, somebody better tell Ellen that I'm on the way. Somebody tell Charlamagne, hey, I'm on the way. There ain't a stage in this world that I couldn't play. Coachella with a full live band would make sense. DJ sets at Summer Jam makes sense.